Hey, Spiritual Chuck here. How you like that view? I love it. We're in a truck stop, man. This truck stop got like 100 trucks in it, man. It's like it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. It's amazing. It's one of the biggest truck stops I've been in. It's about 10 o'clock, about 10 o'clock. I don't know, hopefully you can see me with this light. It's kind of low light. But I talked to a guy in this Arby's over here, and he told me I'm in Beaumont, just outside of Beaumont. I guess I'm 7 miles into Louisiana. And this guy was telling me, he said, man, he said, don't get on that highway in Louisiana because the cops don't let you. Hang on, let me check, make sure I'm focused. Okay, there, that's probably better. He said, don't get on that highway because these cops in Louisiana, they won't let you hitchhike, man. They'll pick you up right away. And he says, I don't know what they do with them. He says, I've seen them writing stuff down, and he says the first thing they pick you up and put your stuff in the trunk and take you on somewhere. And he's like, I don't know if they take you to the next county line or take you to jail or what they do. They might write you a ticket. And I'm like, oh man. He said, and Louisiana is like 297 miles across Louisiana. I said, man, that'd take me about 30 days if I had to walk 10 miles a day. But I don't think I will. I think there's a way, there's a will, there's a way. And there's definitely a will. And there's definitely a way. And he kind of told me some hints on how to talk to these truckers. I've never taken a ride from a trucker, so might be a big day tomorrow. And I might get to ride in a big truck. We'll see what happens. I've already got some ideas on it. And, you know, just watch the blessings. Watch the miracles and the divinity. And I'll let you know what happens. It just blows me away. The how things happen. You know, it's like, and I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to make a little longer video right now than I did earlier. I made a couple of short ones that were divine. But and another part of the divinity was I found a card on the side of the road. And this is the card right here. And to me, this card means, you know, the spades mean the death, you know, like Ace of Spades means the death card. And so, and the 4 is real important to me because I've been talking about Asparsa yoga. And Asparsa yoga is called the 4th state of consciousness. And let me just reiterate this real quick. The first 3 states of consciousness that everyone agrees with is awake state, dream state, and deep sleep state. And so what I realized through the experience that I had in the storage unit was that I'd gone through those states. In other words, I started with the awake state, and then I actually started dreaming again, which I hadn't been doing before I went in the storage unit. And so through that process, I had a few dreams, and then I reached a deep sleep that I just, and then I woke up. And so the classic definition of enlightenment for many traditions is the 4th state of consciousness. Christ said something real interesting about that. He said, blessed is the person who finds himself in the 4th place in heaven. And I don't remember where I read that, and I had a lady say, no, Jesus didn't say that. And so therefore I may have read that in the Nag Hammadi, the Dead Sea Scrolls. And it may not be in every, you know, King James Version. I'm not sure. But I distinctly remember hearing him say that. So, I mean, if anybody's got any ideas on that, I'm open for suggestions, or I will look for it, that quote. But all of these guys are talking about the fourth state of consciousness. And so this card just kind of prompts me to talk about that a little bit, because I've been writing down these business cards, and I've been putting down Asparsa yoga, Spiritual Chuck, and on YouTube, and then I put the first Shivambu as the first yoga, because we were given Shivambu in our mother's womb by our mother for the first 3 months. That's amniotic fluid, which is also urine. And they call it Shivambu, and it's an ancient study in India. It's, I think, the biggest secret in the world. And it saved my life 2 years ago, no question about it. Second time pancreatitis. This is all in another video, and we'll talk about Shivambu in another video. But then I put Asparsa yoga down as the second teaching on this handwritten business card, and I put it as the last yoga, and then I put the fourth state, and that's what Gaudapada called the fourth state of consciousness, deep sleep while awake. And if you want to get pragmatic about it, you could say, well, I went into the dark and I slept for 3 days, and I was so well rested that I reached deep sleep, and then I woke up. And ideally, and I've said this in another video, ideally we will reach deep sleep every night and wake up, and we're enlightened, like every day of our lives. But there's a lot of things hindering us reaching deep sleep, and one of them would be electrosmog. And I know people, I'll go ahead and mention my sister Debbie, because I've had the same issues, but she told me that she, wakes up 2 or 3 times a night, and I do too, or I have in the past. Now I try to make sure that I'm in an environment where I have a real low RF reading on my RF meter. And if I've got a real low reading on my meter, inevitably I get deep sleep and I wake up enlightened, really feeling good. Here's what I'm getting right now, and that's too much. This is not a good location. This is not a good location for sleeping. I hope you can see that. I'm trying to center it on this camera. But if you can see in the box there, it's over half, or it's a little under half. And so I'm going to go try and find another spot to sleep. But I'm sitting here trying to catch up on everything. I charged my phone, and I'm trying to catch up on comments and emails and messages and things like that. So let's get back to Asparsa for a minute. And let me just tell you my experience in the storage unit, and how simple it was. It was 3 or 4 days in the dark. I was so debilitated. I mean, I was clinically depressed. I was, my nervous system had blown out because I'd gone and got acupuncture, electroacupuncture from this Chinese acupuncture guy to quit smoking. And he just blew my nervous system up, and it wouldn't stop. It was on fire. It was like my Kundalini had awoken, and I was on fire. So that was the other circumstance prior to me going in the storage unit. And so what happened was I wound up in there, and I was in a burn-up RV inside this steel storage building. So in retrospect, in hindsight, I realized that I was in an RF-free environment, unknown to me. So that was the first consideration that we have to take into mind. It's like I can't be in the Wi-Fi, I can't be in the electrosmog, you know, and get deep sleep. My cells will not normalize. I will not realize the stillness of consciousness, of pure consciousness, and therefore see the light within me if I'm in that kind of environment. And while I'm at it, let me go ahead and mention that, and I've just recently started talking about this, but you know, the light that we see every day in the world, they call that the second light. And so therefore the first light would be the light within ourselves, okay? And that they say that we must go in the dark in order to see the light. You know, it's like, or die to live, you know, and that's another part of it in terms of what happened to me in the storage unit was my ego just essentially died. I mean, my mind and body were done. And so it was easy for me, and it can be easy for you if you just simply can commit yourself to having this enlightenment experience. And that requires you to go to sleep for 3 days in a correct environment, in an RF-free, electrosmog-free environment. And I mean, I know that sounds like, well, doesn't that sound easy to you? Doesn't that sound easier than years sitting in front of a guru, or years doing yoga poses and all kinds of other stuff? I mean, so there is a prerequisite, I think, for going into the storage unit or into an RF-free environment and experiencing this, and that is, if you go on a distilled water fast, distilled water is a negatively charged water. It has only oxygen and hydrogen as molecules, and those are rocket fuels. And when you drink it, it attracts all the positively charged inorganic matter in your body, and you expel it. You'll go to the bathroom about 8 times a day, and it's going to smell like a petroleum factory, and all the plastics and all the inorganic matter that's in your body will be flushed out, and you'll become like the clear ones, or the Veracocha. And as Dan Winter says, I'm really not familiar with the Veracocha, but the clear one, I definitely relate to that. I kind of did that myself in the storage unit, even though I didn't know what I was doing. And so what I'm saying is that you have to get, like, you know, some of the fluoride off of your pineal gland that's been coming from the water, from the processed water out of the tap and wherever else. You know, you have to clear up a little bit before you go in the dark and see the light. And so that is a little prerequisite to the 3 days in the dark, in order for you to have a successful experience and wake up to the inner light within you, and the stillness and the peace and the fearlessness that's all promised to us in 3 days. I'm going to read you a quote from Ramakrishna in a minute, and he says the same thing. And essentially all these masters, if they're telling the truth, they're saying the same thing. It's 3 days. I mean, I don't know what the synchronicities, the divineness of it, mind, body, and spirit. When the mind, the body, and the spirit unite, then do the heavens rejoice. That's the quote. And I think that's in the Nag Hammadi, Dead Sea Scrolls. So we're into that preparation, and then here's what happened to me. So I went to sleep, right? I woke up, and I was clear, like a baby in a shopping cart is like my best example. And it was just like this. I was just pure consciousness. And then all of a sudden, here comes my mind saying, you know, Chuck, you're a loser. You know, you're not, what are you doing in here? You quit your job, you sold all your stuff, and now you're, you know, in a storage unit. And so I just I just like, literally, I went like this to myself. No, no, I'm not going to listen to you. And I'd lay back down. I later found out the Indians use that term neti neti, which means not this, not this, not this, not this. Either side of the brain, you know, it's like, no, emotions, right side of the brain, logic, left side of the brain, and it's not this, not this. It's not in my mind. And so then I'd lay back down. And then I'd wake up, clear again, you know, take a drink of water, take a pee. So usually I would wake up and just sit there. But then I would take a drink of water and take a pee, and then I'd lay back down. And I just kept doing that. And that's all I had to do. You know, it was really simple. It was really amazing. At the end of it, I saw in the darkness, I didn't see them, but they were there, 4 or 5 masters, I don't know, up in the dark. And I'm not a visionary guy. I'm not, you know, I was the landlubber. I didn't know what I was, you know, and so for me to see 3 or 4 or 5 guys up in the darkness, I don't even know how many, and they were there, but I couldn't see them. And they didn't say anything to me, but they telepathied me, and they said, do not worship us. We are just like you are. We're just not you. And that was a total epiphany to me. And then I laid back down. The next morning I woke up and I remembered with total conviction what these guys had said to me. And I proceeded to smash every idol that I had. I had like a see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil Buddha, you know, some other stuff. And I just smashed it with a hammer. I said, I'm not worshiping anybody or anything, that the light was within me, that the consciousness, the pure consciousness, the Christ was within me. And I opened the door to the storage unit and I looked outside and I saw waves of silver. 360-degree awareness. I don't know what they were. Alternating light, dark, or white, gray, silvery waves. 360 degrees. That's why I use the icon, the Brahma, which is God in India. I use that as my icon on YouTube because he has 4 heads. And he sees 360 degrees. And that's what I was doing. I was seeing 360 degrees. Blew me away. I was like, what? And that was accompanied by a peace that surpassed all understanding. I mean, I was so peaceful and centered, and there was a stillness and a fearlessness, and I was still in bad shape. My body, my nervous system took 6 months to stop the cold sweats. And I mean, but it didn't really have anything to do with my body. It was like this consciousness transcended my body and even what I thought. You know, there was no more thoughts of failure, no more thoughts of hopelessness, no more thoughts of depression. I was liberated. I mean, burnt clean. And that's what they call Asparsa. They call it the way of fire. And without support, without structure. They say it's the yoga that all the yogis are afraid of because it's a complete dissemination of one's egoic identity. And ego is defined as mind and body. So that's it in a nutshell. It's like so simple. Christ talked about rising in 3 days. You know, the similarities, the parallels from all of these masters that are telling the truth, the simplicity of the truth. You know, isn't it ironic that they talk about 3 days? I think it is. I think I experienced what they were talking about. And I didn't get witness to it until later, till I found the Mandukya Karika by Gaudapada. And come to find out, that's one of the most sacred texts in India, and the simplest text. And it's really amazing. And I found out later that Ramana Maharshi, who had experienced this when he was 14 years old, he found out later in scripture what had happened to him. He didn't even know either. But I was like 40, you know, when it happened to me. And then I found out that I was Buddha's 40th disciple. You know, Christ had 12 disciples, which is 12 natures of man according to the Chinese astrology or according to the Western astrology. And Christ, I wanted to say this in a number of videos. This is what Christ said about astrology. He said, the soothsayers and the astrologers won't save you. But he didn't say they were wrong. I want you to think about that, because all the divinity and all of this, I've had tarot reports that perfectly described what I'm going through today. And it's like, where did they get that? How does that happen out of a deck of cards? You know what I mean? And the divinity of even a little bit of heartfelt desire for this or that manifests in my life. I'm walking down the road and I find this and this and this, and I had just thought about it. There's so much going on that we don't really understand, or it's just undescribable. It's divine. So anyway, I wanted to say that about astrology, because it's not, I'm not worshiping astrology, trust me. I'm not worshiping this Four of Spades, okay? But this Four of Spades came into my life today, and it's like, and it just happens to be the fourth state of consciousness that I'm talking about. And it does require a death of the ego. So this is the death four kind of thing. Now, how divine is that? That's the perfect card to describe Asparsa yoga. So now I have to tell you about it. It's not like, you know, I have to go with that divine flow. And that's what Gaudapada said. Once you experience this, all you can do is stay close to it and allow circumstances to provide for you. And that's what I'm doing on this journey. That's what I'm doing on this channel. That's what I'm showing you guys, is that how wonderful it is to just stay close to it and allow circumstances to provide for you. And I've talked, there's more talks about it. I'll reference it more. If you have any comments or questions, I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's that simple. You know, a little preparation, go into the waters, take some water with you, take a jug, take another jug to pee in. And if you want to practice Shivambu while you're doing that, I didn't do that, but you certainly could, because your water is going to clear up like crazy if you go through a distilled water fast. So your water is going to be like water, and it's probably going to taste like honey. You know, because you're not eating anything, because you're on a water fast, and you've just washed out all of the inorganic matter in your body. So you're clear. And so, you know, even if you run out of water, you can just keep looping your water. So you don't have to worry about water in there. You don't have to worry about anything. Just don't worry about anything. Go somewhere that's safe and go to sleep. It's so easy. And let me know. Let me know what happens. What else? That's it for now. I've got a shout out to a lady and a gentleman that gave me a ride to this truck stop today, and I'm going to put that in another video because this one's already long enough. All right, I love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye. Spiritual Chuck signing out. Peace, peace, peace.